Hello, and welcome to Dr. Bill Speaks. And we will start our number 6 video in our spiritual journey. Thus far in our spiritual journey, we have been talking about the concept of love. And love is the most important spiritual concept that we can develop. The way Jesus put it is that upon these 2 laws hang all the laws and the prophets. And all meant all, In other words, if we get these 2 right, then we have arrived. We are heaven bound, and not to some place in the sky, but within us. You see, we're born spiritual. We're born with a spirit. We acquire a body in the process. And eventually, we will leave that body, this body, your body. And when we leave it, we will leave a piece of meat. We won't leave a soul. We won't leave a mind. We'll take that with us. You see, we were created before our bodies, and we will continue to exist once we leave our bodies. And herein lies the problem with understanding the concept of love. You see, love is a spiritual concept. It is a concept that can only be understood with the mind and the spirits. And when the mind is confused, like it is in so many instances in today's world, we call stuff love. That's not really love. We talked earlier about the concept of guilt. We also talked about, loving our stuff. But what we also need to understand is that our bodies also interferes with our love. You see, I have a name, you have a name, and those names are not who we are spiritually. Those names is what's been attached to our bodies. And you see, our bodies, is there for us to utilize to learn how to get back to God through love. And unfortunately, we can't do that because of things like guilt, anger, love of stuff rather than love of people, And today I just want to talk about how these bodies get in the way and create things like anger. In recovery, they say that we beat ourselves up with the anger that's intended for others. We do something and people respond, and we see that respond as a threat to our ego, to our finances, to our love life, to our just everyday existence. And we get this rage in our body. And this body, now to understand something, the body can't think. The body can't make a decision. The body cannot change the direction of our lives. We have to do that with our minds. You see, our owning a body is like owning a car. If you park a car in front of your house and never get into it, it will sit there and rust and go back to whatever happens, like at a junkyard. And the same with our bodies. When we leave our body and we leave that piece of meat there for people to make money off at the funeral home, we're not there. We're gone. People may moan that piece of meat, but they need to be looking up at what happened with the spirit. Where did it go? And where is it now? And how do we continue to love that spirit that left? You see, when Jesus talks about to love neighbor as self, he's not saying love self and love neighbor, but to love neighbor as self. And it's difficult to do that when our bodies get in the way. Well, let me tell you, give you a good example. I can remember when I was going to meetings in Miami, 12-step meeting. And I can remember seeing this guy, and I won't call his name now, but every time he would open his mouth, I would think that was the dumbest, stupidest stuff I've ever heard in my life. You know. And then I know one day, me and my sponsor was leaving a meeting, and he came up and he was talking with him because my sponsor was also sponsoring him. And he was talking about some of his problems. And I felt real empathy for the guy. And I said to myself, but wait a minute, this guy's not like I thought he was. So I remember talking to my sponsor afterwards and saying, how I've been reacting and responding to this guy, the anger I had for him, and he had never done anything to me. So he said that you need to work on that. So I went home and I started thinking back in my life. Who did this guy remind me of? And I went back in the 6th grade, and there he was, Alvin Stanley. I hated Alvin Stanley. Alvin Stanley was someone that broke it into the cafeteria, and it was a homeless man that lived behind the school in what we used to call the jungle. Well, he had broken in and stole some cheese, and that's how he was sustaining himself. Then we went into that jungle. They went in the jungle. We found it, and somebody said, "Well, I saw him breaking in the cafeteria," which I didn't, and honestly, I didn't. And Alvin Stanley got that, and he came back and he started calling me cheese eater. And that hurt me because I didn't do it. And I mean, he just, cheese eater, cheese eater. He had all the kids calling me cheese eater, cheese eater. And I wanted to fight him. But see, I was ahead in school and I was smaller than all these other guys. And every time I try to fight one, I get whooped. So I couldn't beat up Alvin Stanley like I really wanted to. But I did beat him up inside me. It had me. And I took Alvin Stanley with me for years. And every time I saw him in somebody else, that same feeling I want to just do something to him came up. That anger, it was eating me up every time I saw somebody that made me think of Alvin Stanley. So you see, I was beating myself up with the anger that was intended for Alvin Stanley. I was beating myself up with the mistakes that he made, not that I made. And that's what anger would do for us. See, we cannot love our neighbor if we're angry with them. We cannot love a neighbor who we want to beat up, and sometimes our neighbors don't do something to us physically. They bully us or whatever. But whatever it is, the anger don't bother them. You see, when we get angry, we create physiological changes within our own bodies. Like our heart beat faster, the sweat break over your forehead, and you're actually closer to death because your heart goes tum, 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 tum. And it's just physiologically damaging to you. But we hold on to it. I hear people saying, have said in the past, I've said that, I don't feel like this now. I'll never forgive them for that. Well, if you never forgive them for that, you just continue to beat yourself up and understand that you're not doing what Jesus said, and that is to love your neighbor as self. But maybe you are, because the self that you're beating yourself up with is the same self, the same love, or lack of love that you put on your neighbor. So what I had to learn to do in order to learn to love is I had to learn to forgive. That was a bitter pill for me to swallow, learning to forgive. Because I just thought somebody had done me wrong and I just need to get them back. But what I learned is that everything that I wanted to get people back for, I did something. They responded, and I saw that respond as a threat to me, either to my ego, or to my finances, to my love life, to my family. I saw it as a threat, And as I saw that threat, I learned how to respond to threats with anger, And if I felt like I could win the fight, or if I had to shoot you or something, I acted on that. And guess what? That's not love. That's not what we came to earth to do. We came to learn, just like Jesus said. We came to learn how to love. We've had some spiritual geniuses that come through the world. Buddha, Jesus, Einstein, Telsa, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. These guys were spiritual geniuses. And they learned that in spite of anything, that they had to love. Because love is the most powerful force in the universe. I know in 2 John, 3 John, one of John's, saying that if you say you love God, but you don't love your neighbor, so you a lie, the truth ain't in you. He said, because how can you love God who you've never seen and don't love your brother who you see every day? So you see, it's important that we learn to love. And in order to learn to love, we have to learn to forgive. We have to learn to let go. We have to learn that what we thought was so important is not important at all. What we thought was, made us a person, a man to hold on to, or a woman to hold on to, it's not worth it because it's not working against who you hold it against. It's working against you. So learning to forgive is learning to give yourself a break, learning that you too can love, and what you give the world, you get that right back. That's the thing about the universe. When you learn to love and to give love, you get that back. You get love back. If you don't feel love, it's because you're not loving. Now, you have to, whatever you give the world, you get it right back with a little 10% on the side. If you give the world a bucket of crap, then you're going to get a bucket of crap thrown right back at you with a little 10% extra on the side. But if you give the world love, if you learn to love your neighbor, to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit the sick, do acts of kindness. See, the one way to learn to love is doing acts of kindness. If you could do an act of kindness, every day, if you can do acts of kindness for people and not let them know that it was you doing it, eventually you will learn to love. People who you have to forgive, or you say you can't forgive, pray for them that they have everything that you've ever wanted in life or in heaven. And pray realistically and call the name in the prayer and call out all the things that you wish for them to have. And I guarantee if you do that for 21 days, your attitude toward them will change. It will become a beatitude that Jesus talks about. And beatitude means bene attitudo, coming from the Latin, meaning good attitudes. So that's it for today. We'll go on further this conversation on the next one. But if you haven't looked at the Dr. Bill Speak Facebook, I ask that you join that and take a look at Dr. Bill Speak and our YouTube channel. Thank you, and you have a good day, and may God bless you and love you, and may you love others. Amen.